Environmentalists and fossil fuel industrialists. Now, at the first sight, these two definitely are not allies. Fossil fuelists, as I shall name them, definitely try to frustrate environmental efforts. And environmentalists are generally hostile to all fossil fuel power generation and supportive of all non-fossil fuel power generation except for nuclear power. Anti-nuclear campaigns have successfully led to so-called nuclear phase-outs in Germany and to a lesser extent in Belgium. But the thing is, the discussions on nuclear power are usually quite emotional. Okay. If you ever engaged in one, you probably noticed. The emotional nature of these discussions makes it that decisions about nuclear phase-outs do happen quite rushed and under pressure from popular demonstrations, like a rare event like the disaster at Fukushima Daiichi led to a very, very quick declaration of a nuclear phase-out in Germany. Ironically, that does have as a consequence that at least in the intermediate period, fossil fuels will be used for longer. That's the thing. The efforts of environmentalists against nuclear power inadvertently turn them, and especially big gas, into inadvertent bedfellows. And that's what I want to look at. How does it happen that environmentalists and big gas end up actually in a somewhat mutually beneficial relationship? So as I said before, Greens reject nuclear power. One of the reasons why is nuclear waste disposal, the problem of nuclear waste disposal. So what do we do with radioactive waste? Now, for the time being, they're stored in secure above-ground facilities, though we are looking into ways to store it below ground. The argument, of course, is that the fact that nuclear waste is radioactive for such a long amount of time increases the risk of accidents and contamination. Another is nuclear weapons. The argument with Greens and nuclear weapons is kind of akin to the arguments of basically marijuana. Nuclear weapons is a gateway drug. So you go from nuclear power generation, and somehow you end up a few years later developing nuclear weapons and ending the planet. It seems like there is a problem with the intermediate term. Whilst Green parties acknowledge that there is a short-term energy shortfall, they don't necessarily address how to compensate it holistically, at least. Given the traits of renewable energy, nuclear energy provides a lot of energy and very stable. The traits of renewable energy is that it can produce a lot, but it isn't very stable. Given the traits of wind and sunlight, you will automatically have significant fluctuations. So the thing is, in the current climate, fossil fuel use is declining. A lot of European countries are greatly expanding their renewable energy production, but the fossil fuel part cannot decline beyond the base load. So with regards to the phase outs, in Germany, for example, after Fukushima, the energy shortfall was compensated for by using brown coal and gas.
In the last 3 years, we saw an increase of the demand of lignite energy. The increase is one effect of the energy transition. For Germany decided to scale down its nuclear energy, and you need another source of stable energy supply to fill in this gap.
So the thing is, compared to fossil fuels, renewables have an extreme variability that is difficult to control. One cannot control when the sun shines, and one cannot really control when the wind blows. So whilst they have extreme variability, you do still need a base load. And that base load, oftentimes in a lot of countries, is filled by either nuclear power or fossil fuels. Unless a country has abundant amounts of hydroelectricity available, that usually, the base load usually cannot necessarily be adequately filled by renewable energy. So in the frame of a lot of countries where the debate has led to nuclear energy being declared anathema, it ends up being that actually new natural gas plants are being built. Either that, or they import energy from nuclear fueled neighbors to supplement that base load, which goes against the entire point. So my point here is not to trumpet the immense good of nuclear power. My point here is that we need to rebalance the discussion. The truth of the matter is that for the seriousness of the climate crisis we face, I don't believe we can afford to have debates with myths, dogmas, and taboos. The greatest planetary threat at the moment is carbon and methane emissions. Natural gas emits about 30% less CO2 than coal, but that's still a lot. All this means we must have a vision for abundant power generation so we can move individuals, populations, and goods with clean, cheap, and abundant sources of energy, i.e., electricity. If you rush into closing nuclear power plants across Europe, the crucial role they play must be taken over by something else. Again, the sun doesn't shine at night, and the wind doesn't always blow. Not every country has places to build vast dams and or battery lakes. So what do you do? In the meantime, you need something. You need something that does not have the CO2 emissions. You need to have that debate in a rational manner. The climate crisis is real, and we need to face up to the fact that we need to consider all options.